And a 10 marrow. Strength isn't just measured in how much they can lift or how far they can throw something. It can also be measured in how much pain someone can take, mentally or physically. So what about a mutant that is literally constantly putting one of her most sensitive parts in constant danger of being broken? If you don't know, Marrow's mutant ability is that her bones grow so fast that they poke through her skin, forming some form of dense armor that she can break off to form an instant weapon for close combat. However, the amount of pain this would cause is truly excruciating. Bones are one of the most sensitive parts of our anatomy, and even just exposing them to the air would be extremely painful. Add on to that the fact that she is constantly breaking them to use them as weapons, and you have one hell of a day. The fact that she can do this and still keep fighting is incredible, and something to really take into account when considering strength. And at 9, FORGETMENOT. Ever wish your ex would stop texting you? Cause like, guess who woke up with 26 missed calls from their ex? My ex. So obviously I wish I could be forgotten, to discourage me from talking to them. Well, FORGETMENOT's power is actually why you don't know who he is. He can't be remembered, recorded, photographed, or anything. If you aren't looking at him in that moment, you've completely forgotten that he exists. His power is so potent, I guess is the word, that even Professor X had to set an alarm for every hour on the hour to remind him that FORGETMENOT exists. This power, while making life terribly lonely, unless you want to live like a 51st States kind of life, would be extremely useful for fighting crime, making power plays in the world government, and even making a lot of crime easy as hell. Imagine if you could just walk into a bank, get the teller to let you into the safe, and then everyone forgets once you're in there. Goals! I mean, what? Stacy, come back, please. Maybe I do have this power. And at 8, XORN. Do you forget things really easily? Do things go in one ear and come out the other? Or do you have a perfect memory? You hear something and it gets sucked into your brain and stays there. Both of these things can be called black hole brain, since black holes suck everything in, but they also could be considered the ultimate form of nothing. Well, XORN is in kind of the same boat. However, he has a literal black hole / miniature star for a brain, which, while sounding dope since it gives him powers like electromagnetism, healing, and flight, it could mean the very end of the world if one little thing goes wrong. If this guy wanted to be a supervillain, all you would need to do is get a CAT scan. The moment anyone sees what he's got going on in there, they'll want to crack him open like a can of soup and see how he's able to function. But the moment they do, those surgeons will have unleashed a force on this world so great that they probably won't be able to stop it. And while that sounds like a downside, it definitely is. But this list is about stronger than you think, and it certainly makes this character a freaking totem of destruction. And at 7, Moonstar. Prior to being depowered in M-Day, Moonstar had one incredible ability, to be able to manifest physical embodiments and visions of people's worst fears and greatest desires. While in combat, she would translate that into her archery. And if you think about the ways she can use these powers, it's incomprehensible to a human mind. She could be a horror film practical effects artist, charge people to experience their greatest desires, or even just use these manifestations to screw with people until they stay home permanently in fear of leaving their house, because while losing a normal spider is terrifying, losing a giant spider on the outside of your building is enough to keep me home for the rest of my life. Would be in the intelligence department, obviously not where I reside. However, the best use for her powers along with the X-Men would be the intelligence department. If they need information from someone, even a criminal, she could let them experience their greatest desires in exchange for information. Or she could torment them for as long as it takes with their greatest fear and then get the information that way. She could also use it to run the world if she ever really wanted to. Hey, if someone was able to let me experience a date with Emma Watson, I would sure as hell vote for them. And at 6, Tag. Tag, while mostly unknown, is one powerhouse if you really consider the implications of his powers. He obviously gets this name from the game we all played as kids, and with his power set, it's clear why. Called the Pariah Effect, the writers considered him useless enough to depower him during M-Day, and most of you may not have even noticed, but Tag's powers involve him being able to, in essence, give someone the cheese touch, or make them the most desired person in the world with one touch. The Pariah Effect causes people or objects touched by Tag to either be avoided by everyone, or have everyone congregate around that target. He controls mob mentality itself. He could make anyone who bullied him undesirable #1 with a single punch, or give himself some damn peace and quiet by touching something that he always has on him, like a phone or a wallet. Or, let me just put this out there. Hello, Mr. President. How's the re-election campaign going? This man could control world governments with a handshake, and yet somehow the writers thought he was useless enough to remove his powers? Or maybe they thought he was too overpowered. I mean, this is kind of OP. He's hella strong if you really think about it. It's not about the powers you have, it's how you use them. like dick size. And in 5, eye boy. Ever feel like everyone is watching you? Like you have dozens of eyes on you whenever you make a tiny mistake on the subway or when you sneeze at work? Well, eye boy is the physical embodiment of that feeling. Eye boy is covered with dozens of eyeballs randomly placed around his body. While this makes things incredibly awkward, especially dates, it is actually incredibly useful and could make him one of the best secret intelligence agents ever, if you get past the eyeballs. Each eye gives him a different form of sight, so instead of viewing 360 degrees, he can use one to see things like a microscope, or see magical wavelengths in the air, see the non-visible light spectrum, and he even has an X-ray eye. That's really weird on dates. But most interestingly, he also has what can only be referred to as the Sherlock Holmes ability. This allows him to see minute body signals and instinctively interpret them with great accuracy, making him a living lie detector test, and somehow allowing him to perceive your hopes, fears, and ideology from a single glance, making him one hell of an interrogator and special ops agent. Combine this with Moonstar's original ability and you have one hell of a dynamic duo for interrogations. Sorry, I know that that's a DC thing and these are Marvel, but still. And in 4, Morph. If you know him from the X-Men cartoon, you won't really know about his real powers, since there he was just a shapeshifter. But the Morph from the comics is so much more interesting. He doesn't just shapeshift. Instead, he automatically secretes a pheromone that can detect what physical form would put a person most at ease and will automatically transform him into that figure, essentially making him an eye of the beholder human, where everyone sees what they're most comfortable seeing. This makes him the ultimate spy, hands down. He can just walk in somewhere and without breaking a sweat turn into what every single person feels comfortable with. He could just walk into NASA and steal me a computer so that I can play my favorite games at 2000 FPS. But he could also just walk into the White House and hit that big red button, which makes him incredibly dangerous and a force to be reckoned with. While his Earth 616 counterpart bit the dust as the first X-Men to die in action, his name was Changeling, this Earth 1081 version is something to fear. And I fear him. And in 3, ice cream. Who here likes ice cream? Basically everyone. Well, what about a mutant whose power is to just turn himself into any flavor of ice cream imaginable? Yeah, well, it may not seem like an incredible superpower to have since you can't really taste yourself, or if anyone did taste you, I guess they'd be eating you. I still think this would be incredibly useful. Ice cream once infiltrated the danger room at Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, before being turned into a block of frozen ice cream when Professor X turned down the temperature of that room, but he still managed to do it. Plus, have you seen the movie Sky High? If not, I highly recommend it. Danielle Panabaker from The Flash is in it, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's about teenagers who have superpowers who attend superhero high school, and one of them doesn't have powers when he goes. It's really awkward. Well, one of the main characters in it is named Ethan, and he essentially has this ability. He can literally turn into a puddle that he can still move around while in that puddle. He gets classified as a sidekick at first, but after he helps defeat the bad guys at the end, he ends up being promoted to hero. This power is pretty dope, and here's the real kicker that makes it way too overpowered. He can even taste like banana split. What? How do you become the bananas too? And a 2, Domino. The power of being lucky is something not many of us can understand. Having everything good happen to you all the time is something a few of us can only even imagine. But Domino experiences this on the daily. Lucky. Because her power is just luck. In Deadpool 2, this is how it appears, everything good all the time. But in the comics, her powers are far more than that. She can actually manipulate the force of luck. She had demonstrated this multiple times in the past, like jamming guns at the perfect moment, pulling off dude-perfect level trick shots without looking, and even at one point manipulating the probability that a lightning bolt would strike exactly where she needed it at the exact right time. She's basically the god of luck just as much as Thor is the god of lightning and that Loki is the god of mischief. Hell, with this ability she could just destroy anything and anyone she ever wanted to. This can even go so far as being lucky that a person who wanted to shoot her in the head just wanted to jump off the bridge immediately. Or being so lucky that every time her body is failing her, she makes a miraculous recovery. The extent of how this power can be used is insane and certainly one that we all wish we had. She can even make sure that she experiences poor things like losing her wallet, but luckily enough she didn't have anything of importance in the wallet. It's nuts. Finally, in at number 1, Matter Eater Lad. Matter Eater Lad. Oh my god, this freaking guy. Matter Eater Lad is a native to the planet Abysmal in the DC universe and evolved his ability to eat all forms of matter when microfibers had made all of Abysmal's food inedible. And while you may consider this to be an evolution rather than a mutation, once I introduce you to Mr. Eatsall, I think you'll agree with me putting it on this list. Plus, if cilantro tastes like soap to you, it's considered a mutation. And if you have a 6th finger, it's also considered a mutation, even though having 6 fingers is the dominant gene. So in essence, having 5 fingers should be the mutation, but whatever. Rant over. Let me introduce you to Michel L'Hôpital, a man born June 15, 1950, who's known by many as Mr. Eats All. Hailing from France, Michel began eating unusual materials at around the age of 16 accidentally when he ate his first glass. Yeah, like a glass cup. Accidentally. Ever since then, he has broken records. This guy ate a 1.5-ton plane over 10 years. He also will shop for groceries in the DIY area and even bring screws, bolts, and light bulbs to restaurants with him in order to get more variety in his meal. Some places actually comply with him when he asks for them to add this to his meal as replacements, but those are places that know him. This man also took only an hour to eat an entire bike wheel. Everything but the tire itself. This is due to an extra thick stomach and intestine lining that somehow manages to save him. And I'm guessing extra thick teeth. He died at the age of 57 from natural causes, therefore not internal bleeding as many assumed he would. If that's not worthy of a #1 spot, I don't know what is. Matter Eater Lad is real, guys. What? That's nuts. How? Who? What? When? Where? Why? Alex.
Number 10, Bishop. Bishop might not be the strongest of the energy manipulation mutants out there, but he's still pretty powerful. Bishop comes from an alternate future timeline where mutants are branded with tattoos and kept in mutant concentration camps. Pretty bleak. Not only does he travel to the X-Men's timeline on Earth 616 with futuristic weapons like his XSE guns, which allow him to turn his own stored energy into ammo, but he also comes with his own power set. His ability allows him to absorb energy and use it for himself in various ways. One such way is to make himself stronger. He was even able to use his powers to absorb the energy from a snowfall. True story. Number 9, Sabretooth. Even before he had his skeleton infused with adamantium, Victor Creed was super strong and was often seen beating many in combat. Not just because of his strength, mind you, but also because he is ruthless and bloodthirsty, which gives him an edge compared to most opponents. He's been shown to be able to lift cars, rip open all of the metal doors and restraints, and even use his strength to break through a powerful containment field. It's white knuckling it through that containment field. Ugh. Number 8, Wolverine. If you listen to me discuss on some of these lists the ongoing feud between Victor Creed's Sabretooth and James Howlett's, aka Logan's, Wolverine, you might be interested to see that I decided to put Wolverine above Sabretooth for this one. After all, how many times have we referred back to the beatings that Sabretooth has handily given Logan? Creed beats Logan up a lot in the comics, but although this is comic book history, I feel that Wolverine is actually stronger when it comes to the gun show, and only by a smidge, as these two are pretty neck and neck in my books. What gives Sabretooth the edge in battle is simply the fact that he embraces his animal instincts more than Logan does, but if Logan let loose more, I'm confident that his muscles would help him to put Victor Creed in his place. His place may be being a grave, I don't know. Also, we've just got to see more feats of strength from Wolverine over the decades as he's been more prominently featured in tons and tons of comics. Like, dude wrestles sharks and tosses them around like nobody's business. I could only say that about Wolverine because he's probably like the only person that's done all this crazy. He's done the most craziest stuff to prove how strong he is. Nothing says you're strong like beating up a shark. You heard it here first. Number 7, Molly Hayes. Molly Hayes was first introduced in The Runaways. At birth she was tested for an X gene and her results were negative, so it was a surprise when her powers manifested. She poses a powerful level of super strength. Even when she was just a kid and her powers first manifested, she was super strong. She has been shown to be capable of lifting a dinosaur above her head without breaking a sweat. Molly also once punched a Skrull so hard that he went flying through 2 solid buildings and continued to soar hundreds of feet into the air. She has taken various code names since her introduction, including Bruiser, and one of her favorites, Princess Powerful, also one of my favorites, but she currently goes by the codename Blue Jay. While she may not look it, she is surprisingly mighty. I feel like a mutant flexing competition can't be like just about muscles, because there's so many people that are like, I just absorb energy. It's like, how do you see that? Number 6, Warpath. Warpath is a mutant with super strength abilities who first appeared in the New Mutant comics out of the 80s. James Proudstar is not just a mutant, but is also a Native American belonging to the Apache tribe. He is so strong, in fact, that he has been known to punch out grizzly bears and stop moving vehicles with just his hands. His finger strength alone as well is insane, enabling him to scale buildings by crunching the cement or brick beneath his fingers to create hand and footholds for himself as he climbs. Man, he must be really good at rock climbing. He'd just be like, I'll just create a hold. WARPATH originally blamed the X-Men for the death of his brother and as such had a big grudge against them, even plotting revenge. However, eventually he would end up joining them, later even becoming a member of their X-Force. Number 5. Ultra Girl. Ultra Girl is a half human and half Kree mutant, at least we think she is. A lot of her past still remains somewhat mysterious to us. She was believed to be the savior of the pink-skinned Kree but was raised on Earth under their watchful eye without knowing about any of the prophecies involving her. Originally, Susanna started out a career as a model, but when her mutant abilities began to manifest and her Kree physiology started to kick in, she found herself rejected from the industry due to the weight gain from added muscle mass and becoming more muscular looking just in general. Susanna has fought a number of foes, with some of the most notable being the evil Young Avengers, whom she helped to take down alongside the Young Avengers, the X-Men, and members of the Avengers Academy. It was like a big army thing, but she was still just part of it. Number 4. Emma Frost. Yeah, not all telepaths are weak, okay? In fact, most telepaths, I would argue, aren't weak, at least when it comes to how we draw them. They still look as muscular as the rest of the supers in comics. Emma Frost herself is especially strong though because of her diamond form. While in her diamond form, Emma is much more durable as well as strong, and she's much more sparkly. So, I think in a flexing competition, we could give her some extra bonus points for those sparkles. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a part of it is how you pose. I feel like if you're gonna sparkle, you should get some points. Number 3. Genesis. Evan Sabiner is a clone of Apocalypse, who is basically created from the genetic material of the original En Sabiner by Phantom X in his pocket laboratory known as the World. What I mean when I say pocket laboratory, by the way, isn't that he has like a tiny lab. Like he's like, I got one flask. It's actually a massive lab, but it can be shrunken down to fit within your hand. So it's literally like a whole world. While Evan isn't as powerful as the original Apocalypse, he is also still young, so his level of strength is considerably impressive for his age, and will definitely get stronger. He was able to take on and defeat Omega Red in a fight, although he did appear to die as a result of taking down Omega Red. This was actually just a ruse, and he ended up actually being fine. So yeah, he didn't die. Evan also helped to defeat Archangel, the evil version of X-Men member Angel, who had ascended from his position as Horseman of Death to take up the mantle as the new Apocalypse. This was after Apocalypse had died. Archangel would not have been defeated without Evan's very valuable help and his strength. Number 2. Sunspot. Sunspot's powers allow him to absorb solar energy and use that energy to fuel his strength. His powers grant him enough strength to spin a giant boulder on the tip of a single finger, as one would a basketball. And the solar energy makes him so swole that he was able to simply flex through Roman metal armor that he was wearing. However, over the years, we have seen Bobby's powers fluctuate, increasing due to being overloaded with solar energies, and then later becoming less controllable and in fact even harmful to him at one point when they were used, as a result of him contracting the Mpox. Number 1. Strong Guy. If it came to a competition where it was all about your endurance in terms of strength levels, well, Guido Kurosawa wouldn't do so hot. But if we're just talking about strength overall, a quick flex here and there, then Strong Guy has got to be your number 1. Guido's mutant powers involve energy absorption as well. The difference between him and some other energy manipulation based mutants is that he has a shorter time frame than some to use the energy in, to expel it. If not, there is a chance that he could actually overload himself. And he also has a limit, like most do, as to how much energy his body can take, which is why although he could attempt to take on the Hulk in a fight, he'd rather not risk it. This is a guy who has actually had a heart attack as a result of testing his limits, by the way, so I can't really blame him for not wanting to push it. Anyways, he's still super incredibly strong, so good on him. Number 10. Rogue. When it comes to arm wrestling, most heroes would have nothing on Rogue. Her abilities allow her to steal the powers and so much more of whomever she makes contact with. When she kissed Deadpool, she actually even adopted his severely deformed skin, leaving Wade to look all shiny and pretty again. But while Rogue's abilities themselves are shiny indeed and allow her to drain the energy, memories, and superpowers of her opponents, she would also likely end up killing them if she held on for too long, or at least put them in a coma like she did with her first kiss, Cody Robbins. Because of this and our hypothetical mutant arm wrestling championship, she would likely be disqualified for killing her opponent. At least old Rogue would. Obviously Rogue has more control over her powers now. But although taking someone's strength does make you strong, it also still kind of feels like cheating. Like, I love Rogue, I love her, but it feels a little like cheating in a strength competition, you know what I mean? Number 9. Monet St. Croix. M is definitely a mutant who is stronger than she might look. Her super strength has allowed her to even take on She-Hulk in a fight. In Volume 2 of She-Hulk from 2005, these two end up turning to blows after both not initially wanting to fight one another. They both consider the other to be a difficult and powerful foe, and Monet proves just how much of a strong-armed nuisance she can really be, managing to even meet She-Hulk in strength. So when it comes to her power in regards to a fist fight, you best believe she would handily be able to take down many other super strong mutants. After all, She-Hulk is known as one of the strongest characters in Marvel, and even if Monet didn't beat her, holding her off is an impressive feat. Just meeting her is like, whoa, you strong. Number 8. Gentle. Gentle is a newer mutant. He was first introduced in New X-Men Volume 2 and is considered to be a special mutant due to his Wakandan heritage. If you haven't noticed in the comics, mutants that come from Wakanda, it's not really a thing. Nesno Abidemi is half Russian and half Wakandan, and actually inherited his X gene from his father. His mutant powers allow him to gain muscle mass. In fact, the upper limit of his strength he can amass and exhibit has yet to be defined. His super strength could in fact be limitless. When using his powers, he also becomes super tough and durable as a result. Originally, he had less control of his powers and experienced a great pain when using them as a result of the vast increase to his muscle mass, and psychological scars which also lended to this as well. Eventually, Jean would help him to overcome this weakness, and the vibranium tattoos that he covers himself with help him to harness and control his powers more easily as well. It has been said that he is on the same level of strength as Colossus, and that he could even likely take the Hulk on in a fight. Number 7. Namor. You might not think of this Atlantean mutant when it comes to those of mutant kind who are known for their strength, but Namor would likely be able to take on and defeat many other mutants and heroes in an arm wrestle, especially if the championship took place underwater. Namor is at his most powerful when underwater, but even when he is on land and weakened somewhat by his distance from the sea, he is still impressively strong. He has been able to knock out both She-Hulk and Hulk on occasion, and he once defeated Red Hulk in an underwater battle. Namor can take on basically all of the Hulks, though probably not at the same time. They'd be like Hulk smash, and then Namor would be dead. Number 6. Sebastian Shaw. No matter what you throw at this former leader of the Hellfire Club, he can store it up and throw it right back at you. Sebastian Shaw is a mutant who can absorb whatever energy is tossed his way, using it to strengthen and fortify himself. This makes him hard to beat in a fist fight, as throughout, he often just continues to get stronger and stronger as his opponent eventually will tire. With most mutants who have energy absorption powers, there is a limit as to how much they can take, and we eventually find out what this is when they become overloaded with energy. But with Sebastian Shaw, we have yet to discover what his limit is, and he's a character who's been around since the 80s, so he's been around for a while. This lack of knowledge could actually imply that his powers are limitless, though we don't really know yet, but he could be Omega level, just saying. Number 5. Colossus. What super strong mutant list would be complete without one of the greatest? Pyotr Rasputin, Colossus, is often known for his super strength due to his tough steel form. And despite steel not being as strong as some of the other famous metals of the Marvelverse, Colossus has still managed to prove just how tough he is on more than one occasion. He shielded his fellow X-Men from a blast of deadly energy from Terminus, a powerful foe of the Celestials. He's managed to crack Juggernaut's helmet while he was Kurth, Breaker of Stone, and even managed to survive a fight against World War Hulk. Yeah, I know he got his arms broken, but still, just taking on this version of Hulk is impressive. Number 4. Omega Red. So based on what we just talked about in regards to Colossus, I know what you're thinking. How can Omega Red be considered stronger than him? It doesn't make sense, Amanda. Well, Colossus fought World War Hulk, yes, but when it comes to steel, no matter how reliable it is, there are still stronger materials, like Omega Red's carbonadium infused body and tentacles. And as such, when Colossus and villain Omega Red came to blows in issue 499 of Uncanny X-Men, it ended up being Arkady, not Pyotr, who proved he was made of stronger stuff, especially after the Red Room had increased Omega Red's strength and durability. He handily drained some of Colossus's life energy with his tentacles, and even managed to penetrate Colossus's impenetrable skin. Ugh. If it weren't for Nightcrawler's interference, it is very likely that Omega Red would have defeated both Colossus and Wolverine, whom he was fighting at the time. I know what you're thinking, but doesn't Wolverine have adamantium? Isn't adamantium stronger than carbonadium? You're right, but you know what? Maybe we'll see Wolverine on a part 2, okay? Just deal with it. He's strong though. he's strong. But Sabretooth is stronger than him, so and where does Sabretooth fall in all of this? We really need a part 2 to this list, to be honest. Number 3, Hope Summers. Hope is a similar power set to Rogue. She's the adopted daughter of Cable. I know, it's a little confusing. She looks like a natural born relative of Jean Grey's, but she isn't. She just happens to bear a resemblance and shares that striking red hair. Hope is probably one of the most powerful mutants around because she can copy anyone's powers in her vicinity without even needing to drain them of their power or energy or touch them at all. And she can have as many powers as she likes, and the powers she mimics are considered to be at their full strength, their highest limit, the most potent they could possibly be. So now, imagine if she went toe to toe with any other super strong mutant or super. I mean, granted, if Hope goes toe to toe with almost anyone, she's got it in the bag. But super strength also falls within her wheelhouse when applicable. Her only real weakness is time and distance, as eventually the powers will wear off the further away she gets from her opponent, which means running away would be the best option for any super strong foe who comes up against her, which is probably why we don't see her as much in the comics. She's too powerful. Number 2, Apocalypse. When it comes to a flexing competition, Apocalypse is another mutant who could easily win the day. He is more durable than most with a slew of other abilities, but his super strength is not just an add-on when it comes to those abilities, and he's evolving all the time, so it's likely we'll only see him become even stronger as time goes on. And Sabinur is so strong that he has managed to hold back the Hulk, an impressive feat. Sure, this was when Hulk was separated from Banner and couldn't really rely on rage to increase his strength, but the Hulk also had a higher base level power in this state, because he was kind of like always angry. So either way you slice it, Apocalypse still looks like a muscly badass. A slice of muscly badass. Ew. That's gross. Number 1, Onslaught. Kind of a weird one to include on this list, as Onslaught is sort of just Dark Xavier with some Magneto mixed in. And Xavier's not a mutant normally thought of for his strength. Though to be fair, people often seem to forget that Xavier is a skilled and trained fighter and martial artist, just because they still think of him as a telepath confined to a wheelchair, even though he hasn't really been that version of himself since the early 2000s. So why do people still think of that? I don't know. When Onslaught emerged, he was a force to be reckoned with on all fronts. Not only insanely psychically strong, but also physically strong as well. This is a foe who managed to punch Juggernaut so hard he flew across Canada and landed in the USA. He also managed to rip out the Sidorak gem from Juggernaut's body as well. And he managed to hold off the Hulk. So yeah, I think he might qualify for the gold medal in this arm wrestling competition, even without his psychic abilities. Although to be honest, anyone who possesses powerful telekinetic skills in my mind could also be considered super strong. They could technically just flex with their brain to make their arms look like they're strong. You might think that's cheating, but I don't know. I think telekinetics, they're powerful. They can flex too, with the brains.
Number 10, Tag. We all know of the game Tag. You know, tag, you're it, and then everyone just runs away. Well, my friends, welcome to Brian Cruz's life. He has the ability that allows him to make people either run away or towards a specific person or object whenever he touches them. In the comics, whenever he would use his power, he would often yell out, "Tag, you're it!" I know, it's a little on the nose, but hey, I mean, the guy seems to just embrace it, and you know, you can't judge him for that. Number 9, Bailey Hoskins. Oh, Bailey. Poor Bailey. You see, Bailey is a mutant that joined the X-Men. Bailey has the ability to detonate his entire body like a bomb, which, I mean, would really come in handy in a fight against other superpowered individuals. Now you're probably saying, David, if he's so powerful, why is he not a higher classification? Well, because he can only use his powers once. Yep, just once. See, he found out he happened to have this ability because of the X-Men. Technically, he could have gone through his whole life without knowing, and you would have never been able to tell he was a mutant, but he is, and he just can't use it or he'll die. So if one day he decides to use his powers, they would actually be really effective, and knowing that he could use it at any moment could be terrifying to an enemy. It's just the one-off that limits him so very much. Number 8, Layla Miller. Layla Miller is a mutant with power to bring back people from the dead. Now hold on, it's not exactly what you think. Firstly, it has to be within minutes of someone dying. Secondly, if she does bring someone back, they don't have their memories or their souls. So they're just kind of like a mindless being in a way. Which, hey, I mean, could be useful sometimes, but I feel like it would be helpful if you were more of a villain. You know, you could make an army of them, make them go after people, but unfortunately, Layla isn't. Number 7. CYPHER. Douglas Ramsey, aka CYPHER, is a mutant with the ability to understand all languages, even ones from other planets. He can automatically pick up and understand it, even if it's the very first time he's ever even heard it. Now, that is a very useful ability to have. It would really come in handy, but it's not like, it would necessarily help him in a physical battle. And you can also kind of see that he could have gone through his whole life not even knowing he was a mutant, although he did know, and his power did come in handy a few times in the comics. Number 6. Callisto. Callisto is a mutant with very enhanced senses, so her sense of smell, touch, taste, hearing, balance, and sight are all enhanced, well beyond that of an average human. And honestly, it's a really cool kind of power to have, but at the same time it doesn't help a lot in a fight against, some of the higher class mutants. But she's also a very skilled fighter, so that along with her abilities would make her a formidable foe against most people. Number 5. Wallflower. Lori Collins, also known as Wallflower, is a mutant who gives very strong airborne-based pheromones, which can alter the mood of people around her. Originally, she couldn't really control this ability, but as time passed, she learned how to control it. Although it can be difficult for her to use it if she's not in the right state of mind. Number 4. Loa. Loa is a teenager who grew up in Hawaii and has the ability to pass through any solid object, but as soon as she does, the object gets destroyed. So she's kind of like Kitty Pryde in a way, except she has consequences every time she does. She also has markings all over her body because of her powers, but not to the point where if you saw her you would immediately think like, oh nope, she's a mutant, she has powers. Her powers can also really come in handy, but at the same time she really needs to be careful using it. The first time she did, she ended up killing a shark. So her powers can be lethal, but it would be hard to run at someone in a fight, just running at them and they would just jump out of the way. Number 3. Forge. Now Forge is a really interesting one. His mutant power is being able to invent and build mechanical devices. Now on the surface it would seem like that's just a skill that he picked up, but no, it's his power. See, it's not like someone being able to just go up and build something with, relative ease. Forge has mentioned that he can see mechanical energy. So he's able to just go up, build, design, conceive, operate technology and weapons that, would otherwise take someone years and years of research to accomplish. Whereas Forge can do that in a matter of minutes. Number 2. Domino. Domino has the power of being very, very lucky. Now, she is aware of it, but you can see how someone might not have been. Some people would just assume that they just were, really lucky. Like getting a job even though, you didn't have the right qualifications, passing a test without studying, winning the lottery, etc. Like all that stuff. But since Domino is aware of it, she uses it to her advantage. Now, it's not like bad things can't happen to her, but depending on the scenario, it can usually go her way, and since she's aware of it, she's gotten a lot better at controlling that ability. Number 1. Ice Cream. Oh man, okay, I had no idea this guy even existed before today. Ice Cream is a mutant who has the ability to turn into any type of ice cream. And no, I'm not joking. He debuted in 1983 and has never been seen again. I'm so sorry guys, but come on. He has to be number 1. I mean, the guy's power is being able to turn into any ice cream flavor imaginable. Like, how ridiculously weird and amazing is that? In his first and only appearance, Ice Cream witnessed the X-Men in action while watching them on TV. He became jealous of them because he thought their powers were a lot cooler and then they made his look stupid. So he decided they needed to be eliminated. So he breaks into the X-Mansion hoping no one would notice a random pile of ice cream lurking around the house. Now, the day he broke in happened to be Kitty Pryde's birthday. Xavier hired a clown for the occasion, and when Ice Cream saw the clown interacting with the X-Men in the danger room, he decided that he wanted to eliminate him as well. But it didn't work out. They trapped him in the danger room and lowered the temperature so that he turned into a frozen block of ice cream. Then they decorated him like a sundae. Like, no joke, they actually did that. And then he was never seen again. I honestly, I really want to know what happened to him.